Today we're going to be doing ourselves a butternut squash and pumpkin curry, or pumpkin and butternut squash curry. So we're going to roast those two down and make a lovely curry. We're going to add spinach to it. Very nice, hearty, a little bit more healthier kind of meal to do today. But we're going to also do pumpkin-shaped naan breads, a little bit of mint yogurt, and also a little bit of mango chutney to go with it as well. Not going too crazy with the sugar, but hope you're all doing well. Well, this is quite a considerable amount of pumpkin, which we're going to kind of roast off. I've got another pumpkin back there as well, which we can do pumpkin carving later on this week, so that would be great. So let me cut this in half. I'll grab my chopping board. Let me just try and take this sticker off first. So this is a little bit tricky cutting through. It can be a little bit tedious, so just be kind of careful with it. So just take your kind of time with it, so without it kind of rolling off anywhere. So make sure you got it in a nice position. So I'm just going to cut all the way around and then just kind of basically snap it in half and it'll come out. So you just have to be really kind of careful with this. There we go. Usually the root is not the root, but the top of the root is pretty much the hardest to do. So now this should just break open really nicely, so like so. So just pull these out. So I'm just scooping these out with a spoon, nothing too complicated. So once they're all out, what we're going to do is just literally rub them with a little bit of oil. I guess you could put a touch of curry powder on there because it's going to be like obviously a curry if you want to get a bit more flavor, but we're going to have plenty of flavor in the base, so maybe I'll have a little dusting of curry powder on here once it's rubbed up with a little bit of oil. Right, just a little touch of oil, teaspoon in each, and then what we're going to do, just get our hands in there. So really important just to give it all a nice little rub round. So even on the skin, just get that all nice and glossy and shiny. So what's going to happen with the skin is when this roasts down in the oven, basically it's going to soften up, and then when you take it out you can just peel the skin off. It'll come off really easily, so you won't have any issues with it. Right, so what we're going to do, just top and tail. Though we're only going to use half of this. I'm not going to go too crazy. So I'm going to use some of the rest of the butternut squash in the rest of the week. So I'm just going to wrap this up and cling film this for later on Friday. So what we're going to do with this one, we're just going to peel this down really nicely. Then we're going to dice it up into a nice chunks, not too small dice. And then we're going to just a little bit of oil as well, and we're going to also put it with a bit of curry powder with the butternut squash. So we're just going to peel this down all the way around. Now usually people like to use their knives. I find using the knives to take the skin off, number one, wasteful, and second of all, you kind of go skew-if and you're more than likely to have an accident. So honestly the safest and the best way in my opinion is just giving it a peel with the peeler. So there we go. Right, so what I'm going to do is cut this down very nicely into nice little cubes. Be very careful. Take your time as well. Don't rush. If you rush, you're more than likely going to cut yourself. You're going to have an accident. So just make sure you take your time. You know, whatever you feel comfortable with. You don't have to go as fast as I do. You know, go at your own safe speed. Right, so we're going to pop this into the oven. It's going to take roughly about 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to put a 30-minute timer on my phone so I don't forget. Oh. How about Instagram video, chef? That's a good idea. Let's do it. Beautiful. Okay, we've got everything we need. So what we're going to do, let's get rid of my waste bowl over there. Just leave that there for a sec. So what we're going to do is top and tail our onion. And then what we're going to do is cut straight down the middle. And we're just going to take the cheeky skin off as usual. And then we're going to dice it up very nicely. Pretty much slice it down horizontally, but not all the way through. So can you see I'm just not cutting all the way through the root? I'm cutting in and I'm stopping and I'm pulling out again. So it's holding the onion together very nicely. Now obviously the more layers you get out of this, the more finer dice you're going to get out of it as well. So, and then we're going to go vertically, sorry, cutting almost all the way through, but not quite, so it still holds together very nicely as I said before. And then what we're going to do once we've done that is just basically cut it sideways, and then we're going to get a really nice dice. So you're not there for like hours on end dicing away trying to get a nice little perfect dice for your curry. This comes out really nicely, so, and it saves you a lot of time. So there you go. There you go. Half an onion, diced up. Good to go. Grate down the garlic. So we're going to grate this down. Watch your fingers on the microplane. Or if you've got a garlic crusher, that's also another option. So we're going to push this through and put this on top of the onions. So we're just going to grate this ginger right down on top of the garlic and the onions. And then what we're going to do, we're going to start cooking the base down for this, ready to go. Now, with the ginger as well, sometimes it gets really kind of like sinewy, like kind of like tough. So I kind of don't really want that going into my curry. So I'm just going to take that and pull that aside. Can you see it there? It's like really kind of like strandy and it's not very nice. You wouldn't want to chew on that. So make sure you kind of like pull that out. It's usually the stuff that you can't get through the grater. So just set that aside. Sometimes they can be really sinewy like this. They're fine to use. Still beautiful flavor. It's just you don't want that texture going in there. So just pull it out. Otherwise you're going to be chewing on it later when you're eating your curry and it's just not pleasant. So we want about a tablespoon of vegetable oil, canola oil, straight in there. It's on a medium heat. Once this is nice and hot, what we want to do, we're going to start adding the onions, the garlic, the ginger, and we're going to start sauteing that down for about 5 minutes until they're soft. So while I wait for that to heat up, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start slicing up. I think I've got some tomatoes in here I want to use, so just cut this down very nicely into slices, and then we're going to pretty much just dice it up very nicely as well. So just cutting it down, and then, oh, we lost our seeds. And then what we want to do is just pretty much into a nice little dice, watching your fingers, using your middle finger for a little bit of guidance. There you go. So we got a nice dice, seeds and all. Fantastic. So let's do the rest of it now. This is coming up to a nice little heat now. We're going to start adding the onions, the garlic. So I'm going to flip this across. I'm going to start adding the onions without spilling it all over your stove like I did, usually. Oh, there we go. It's a tradition. So straight in. You don't want to go too fierce. You just want it like sizzling nice and gently on a medium heat. You don't want to be going too crazy. So we're cooking that down very nicely. So what we're going to do, give that a nice little soften up. Cooking down very gently. Looking absolutely fantastic. So we'll leave that on there. After about 2 minutes, then we're going to start adding the tomatoes. Once it's turned translucent, it's good to go. So let's get our spices together. So about 4 tablespoons of curry powder. Also, bearing in mind as well, when you buy your curry powder, make sure it's mild. If it's hot and then you add more cayenne pepper, just bear that in mind. If you buy hot curry powder, maybe leave the cayenne out. Or if you like it super hot, there you go. That's another way to kind of heat it up a little bit more. So about a teaspoon of ground mustard. There we go. We also want a half a teaspoon of ground clove. There we go. It's fine. Don't go too crazy with that one. That's quite strong. 2 teaspoons of paprika. There we go. Ground coriander, 1 teaspoon. Oh. Half a teaspoon of cardamom. Go easy on the cardamom. Cardamom is a very kind of strong spice, so you don't want to overdo this. So half a teaspoon, quarter of a teaspoon would be fine. Ground cumin, teaspoon. There we go. Magic. Ground turmeric. Actually, ground turmeric is actually very good for you. Very good for the joints, anti-inflammatory. So there's already some in the curry powder itself, so we're gonna add a little bit more, so about half a teaspoon. There we go. And be careful with this stuff as well. It'll get your fingers very yellow, so it does stain. And then about half. I feel like half a teaspoon will be a good heat to it. If I want to add more later on, that's fine. So half a teaspoon of the curry powder. Right, so there's our spice done. It's good to go. So just done our spice, ready to go. So we're going to add that very shortly after we've added the tomatoes. Actually, we're going to add the spice now, then the tomatoes. So fantastic. Pretty much add the tomatoes. Let's get all that beautiful juice in there as well. So those are going straight in. Fantastic. Make sure all that juice goes in there as well. All that beautiful flavor. The curry powder and the spices that we added to this. So that's going in there now. Good to go. So we're going to give that a nice little mix up. So So we cook out those spices, the tomatoes. Absolutely fantastic. So that is there. So we're going to leave that in there about a minute. Just let it kind of cook down, let it do its thing, and then we should be good to go. Right, half a lemon into the curry. So this is a little bit on the frozen side, but that's okay. It'll melt down. It's a little slushy. So I'm just going to drop that straight in. So this is homemade chicken stock I've made in the past, which I wanted to use up. So if you want to know how to make it, I've made it plenty of times on my stream, so just go check the VODs. I'm sure I'll make it again at some point because I'm using up all the excess chicken stock now in my freezer, and then we can make fresh again very shortly for something else. So that's just going to melt down very nicely. Giving it a little slosh around, absolutely fine. So that's just going to do its thing. I'm not going to need to thicken this. Now, you can add a touch of flour to this if you want to, but we're not going to need to thicken this because by the time we've had the butternut squash and the pumpkin, it's going to be quite thick anyway. So we're letting that roast off first, and then we're going to add this later on. So we're going to turn this down to like a lowish heat, do its kind of thing. And we can always top it up with more stock if we need to, but I feel like this is good. So I'm going to turn this down and let it do its thing for a couple of hours until that roasted butternut squash and pumpkin's ready to go. Don't go too crazy. I feel like one stalk will be fine, so I'm just going to pick this down, a couple of leaves. We're going to give this a little cheeky wash, and then we're going to dice it up very nicely. Slice this up. Yogurt, mint. I'm going to mix that up. We're going to add a little touch before that. We're going to add a little touch of vinegar. So I've got some Medina vinegar. You can just use malt if you want, or white vinegar, or whatever takes your fancy. Cider vinegar. I've got a little bit of honey left over, which I want to use. I bought some more this weekend, so I don't want it to be too sweet, but just enough. I just want about a teaspoon in there. That's all we want. Perfect. And then we're going to add about a tablespoon of vinegar as well. Right, so half an onion. I'll keep the other half for, I guess we can use it for tomorrow. If it falls apart a little bit, don't worry. Just try and keep that root intact. And then just slicing it down really nicely. Just going to grate down the garlic very carefully, and also grate down that cheeky ginger as well to go on top of the onions. So this is going to be the base for our mango chutney itself. So medium-sized pan, that's cooking down really nicely. We haven't added the spinach, we haven't added the butternut squash and the pumpkin. That's still in the oven, the pumpkin and the butternut squash. It's actually looking pretty damn good. It's ready. So we're going to add a tablespoon of canola oil or vegetable oil. Once it's nice and hot, then we're going to start adding the onions, the garlic, the ginger, just softening them up, cooking them down for about a couple of minutes, not too long. And then once they're nice and soft, or while they're cooking down, we'll start cutting up the mango and start adding that with the rest of the other ingredients, honey and the vinegar. Beautiful. That's off. And as you can see, look how soft the pumpkin is. It's nice. It's not like too soft, but we're gonna let that kind of cool down. The butternut squash is really like kind of roasted off very nice. It's got some beautiful flavors. It's really nice and soft as well, as you can see. So that's good to go. We're gonna add that to the curry. Once it's cooled down, we're gonna take the skin off. We're gonna chop up the pumpkin. Then we're gonna kind of add it to the curry base, and then let it cook down for a further hour. We're gonna start adding the onions and the garlic to the pan without dropping it everywhere. So they're gonna start sizzling down very gently, not on a fierce heat. You just kind of really want to just soften them up, and then we're going to start adding the mango very shortly. What we're going to do, we're going to peel this down. Now, if it's like super ripe, peeling can be a little bit tricky, so take your time with it, but this is not like super ripe, so it's actually really dead easy to peel. So, basically, mangoes are usually oval. They're not actually round, they're actually oval. So as you can see, this is the tall part, and this is the short part. So you look for the oval. So that's where the nut or the seed will be. So you just kind of got to look for it. So you don't want to go too close to it. So it's cut down with ease. There we go. Easy. Now you don't want to cut too close. Can you see the white there? That's where the seed is. If you cut too close to it, you'll end up with quite of like almost like a sinewy kind of texture, like the ginger. Remember the last bit of the ginger? It was quite woody and textury. That's what you'll get out of the mango if you cut too close to the seed. So just going to chop this a little bit up. Don't need to be so specific with this, just chop it up. This is like the side bits. Didn't really want to waste it, so we're going to use it. And we're going to start adding the mango to the pan now, without getting it everywhere. Beautiful. So let's grab that, pop that straight in the pan. I'm going to start adding the honey. We're also going to start adding a little bit of vinegar as well, so you get that kind of sweet and sour kind of flavor going on. That's cooking down very nicely. We're going to add some vinegar, and we're also going to add a little bit of honey. This is the last bit of my honey, so I've got more behind me, so that's fine. If you want to use granulated sugar, that's fine. I'm just going to go with the honey for today. Want about roughly 2 tablespoons. That's going to cook down very nicely. I'm going to turn this down to a low heat with the mango chutney. So I'm going to add a little touch of water in there as well, not too much. Might add more vinegar later on. We'll have a taste when it's ready. Let's have a little splash of water in there, about 200 ml. Will be plenty. So we're going to leave that at the back. Let it do its magic. And we're going to blend half of it up and then mix the rest up through later on today. So what we're going to need to do with this is pretty much cooked out. It's really nice and soft, as you can see. So what we're going to do, the skin will just literally, it'll just come off. Just peel off like so. So there we go. So I'm going to dice that up very nicely. I'm going to add that, and then the other half I'm just going to blend it. And we're going to start making our naan bread. Naan pumpkin bread. Pumpkin naan bread? Yeah, whatever. However you want to arrange those words. That's what we're making. Okay, so let's dice this up. So this should be nice and soft. Look, you can even push it down. So into nice little chunks. Right, so this is going in. In you go. All that beautiful goodness. And I mean, if you really want to kind of play around with this as well, you could add like pulses like chickpeas or some kind of lentils if you really wanted to. So what we're going to do is dice this up really nicely. Just into chunks so we can just chuck it straight in. There we go. A little dash of water. We're probably going to need more, but we'll see. Right, shouldn't be too loud, but if it is, just adjust your headsets. 250 grams of bread flour. We also need a pinch of salt. I was going to heat up some milk, so I need 125 ml. So let me do that first, because obviously we don't want to heat it up to a point where we just want to take the chill out of it. So it needs to be about 35 Celsius or 95 Fahrenheit will be good. I want a very small amount of oil in here, not too much for the fat content. So about 5 grams. Also want, I've got the salt. Oh, a little touch of sugar, not too much though. I'm talking about a teaspoon. So about a dessert spoon of yogurt. You don't need too much. I'm going to go with 2. I'm going to freeze this down as well. I'm going to use this. Maybe we can keep that for the pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving when we get to it. So it's fantastic. Pop 2 teaspoons of yeast in there. And here comes number 2. Perfect. So we're going to mix that up. Really important to mix that up so the yeast dissolves into the milk, and then we'll pour that mixture straight into the floury mix that we've weighed out there. So let's give this a nice little mix. So we're going to need it. Need it for later. And we're going to need to knead the dough, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a little bit on the sticky side, that's okay. So we're going to knead this for about 5 minutes. I'm going to add a little touch more color if it hasn't like just distributed properly. That's fine, we'll add a little touch more. I'm not going too crazy with it. Let's roll that up. Pop that in there. It's good to go. We're going to put a little bit of flour just in case it proves a little bit too much. I really don't think it will, but just in case. And then we're going to put some cling film all the way around it. And I'll pop it in my proofing room. That excess water off. Yeah, we're about there now. Okay, so let's turn that off. Just flick that across. Let's blend up some of this, what's it called? Mango chutney. And what we're going to do is put half blended up and then half mixed up, so we've got a nice little bit of coarseness in there. Now with this mango chutney, it's a little bit more healthy, it's less sugar in there, but at the same time you still get the great flavours. So that's good to go. So our chutney is ready to go, or our low sugar chutney. Let's get the rice done then. So I've got some brown rice somewhere. 100 grams should be sufficient enough. I'm not going to make too much rice. So we're going to top this up with water. We want kind of 4 to 1. So 400 ml of water, and then we're going to cook this for like twice as long. So 20 minutes on the stove and then about 5 to 10 minutes on the stove with the lid on still, steaming. So let me cut this in half. This is an acorn squash, so I'm going to cut this in half. I kind of want to serve the curry in here, right? So I'm just going to cut the bottom off so it can stand up. Where's my knife? It's here. Perfect. Cool. Nice. Would have been nice if I used this earlier on to roast off, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I just only thought about it now. It's just the seeds we need to take out. And we can serve our little cheeky curry in there. Beautiful. Oh, this is actually feeling really good, so I'm pretty happy. Look at that. It's had a nice little rest. And it's already looking fantastic. Okay. Okay. So let's cut these into 4. Let's have a little cheeky roll. I'm not really worried about it. So it's more kind of to do with flavor if you want to leave it for a little bit longer, kind of thing. So that kind of looks like a pumpkin, right? Okay. Whether this will work or not is another question, so we'll see. His face, I love it. I don't know what happened to his eye, but he's looking very peculiar. But he's turned out great. Get this done very quickly. So let's pop our spinach in there. That's just going to wilt down very nicely, kind of very quickly. So we've washed that off very nice. There we go. So here's our mint yogurt. Talking about teaching, like cooking classes and things. If you guys and gals are actually interested in personal cooking classes, I'm actually giving them, which I haven't mentioned for a while now. I can do it on my weekend. It won't be on stream either. It'll be a one-to-one. No distractions. So if there's something you really want to learn, feel free to PM me and we can do it. I've already given my first cooking lesson. Somebody in chat who was here earlier on. Who really enjoyed it. So if you're interested in that, if you want to learn something, whether it's bakery, whether it's menu planning, flavor pairing, flavor tasting, you know, I could stand here and name lots of things. So, you know, rather than paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for like a professional cooking course, which you'll probably know 3/4 of it anyway, why don't you tell me what you want to learn? I can teach you a lot more for a lot more cheaper price as well. Right. So, there we go. I feel like it's not quite the sufficient platform for what I want to do. So, I mean, I'm still doing it. I'm still enjoying it, you know. I'm still getting by, you know. That's why I came out of it. Right, so we're going to serve the curry in our cheeky curry pot right there. Though I'd like a few little... I don't want it just to all look like mush. So there, let's have a little bit of... Oh, I dropped a little bit, chef. You're a messy bugger. So that beautiful curry, a bit of spinach in there, looking fantastic. A right tiddly mess of it. Now obviously you'd be saying, chef, I'd have way more rice than that. I mean, yeah, if you're plating up in a bowl, it'd be a different ball game. But this is just for my plating purposes. Patience is also another thing I need to kind of learn as well. Sometimes you just can't have everything all at once. You just need to be patient, right? Which I feel like I'm getting there. So yeah, so have a little bit more curry on there as well. So it's kind of like overflowing a bit. So we've got the spinach. Bit of the butternut squash in there as well. Yeah. And then obviously my pumpkin naan. Look at that. Magic. Oh, I love these faces. They're great. There you go, amigos. There's our beautiful dish. So our pumpkin butternut squash and pumpkin naan bread turned out absolutely lovely. So very, very happy. Let's have a little taste now. So guys, have a great rest of your Monday. I was going to say Wednesday. It's not Wednesday yet. Have a great rest of your Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed the dish as well. I'll be back tomorrow for the hot dog witch's fingers for another spooky dish before Thursday. Guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for the love and support. I appreciate it. Much loves. Bye for now, guys and gals.